I'm Mike,
And I'm Amber. Welcome to the Covenant Chronicles,
where we tell you the truth about relationships.
giving you the tools to build the foundation you always needed. Push. Welcome back to the Covenant Chronicles.
Way to go. That's crazy.
I did not mean to push the button, but here we are.
Here we are.
So I guess we're starting now.
Uh-huh.
Oh, welcome back.
That's okay. It is what it is. So let's talk about covenant. We talked about this before, but I think it's important for us to readdress this because I don't feel that we 100% portrayed what covenant actually is. And we recently saw a video that was a really good descriptor, and it helped connect the dots of some of the thoughts and beliefs that we had, and like, how do we package this into a portrayable package, I guess, to be able to give to people and say, this is what you're getting into.
Yeah.
So I want to readdress it.
Yeah, you're going to have to talk about it because, I saw the video probably a week ago, but I don't remember it super well.
Well, so let's go back to, we're going to go to Old Testament here. And we talked about this last time, and the covenant between God and Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
In this time period, right? And I think that this is really important for people to understand that in the Bible, we read things and there's comments made that, the Bible is one of the best history books ever.
Yeah.
Or out there. If not, it is the best, right? And this is true. The issue with this statement is I don't think enough people actually take the time to learn the context or learn the understanding of these things a lot of times that occurred in the Bible were not that uncommon in the area, right? Mm-hmm. And so, for example, when you look at the story of God making the
covenant with Abraham.
Covenant with Abraham. Yeah, said that, jacked me up. I had to pause for a second. I'm like, whoa, what did I just say? Anyways, making the covenant with Abraham, it describes this picture of this area, and there are animals that are cut in half, right? And they're getting ready to walk through the center of the animals. And then Abraham passes out, right? Yep. It doesn't explicitly say that God made him pass out, God put him to sleep, God touched him and he fell, but it is this almost an inclination or a hint to God made him fall asleep. And there's a lot of inference around this that they knew, or that God knew Abraham couldn't keep his part of the covenant ultimately, which is why God, made him fall asleep.
Yeah.
And then, but yet God still passed through animals. So the significance of this is, with this type of covenant, what you would do, and this was actually common in that part of the world at this time, where you would basically, if you were trying to make an unbreakable covenant, right? Like now we have contracts and you sign these contracts, and the more, pages and attorneys that are involved in creating the contracts, that makes it more binding and, right? And these are how we create contracts nowadays. Yeah. Back then, they didn't necessarily do that, right? This was their way of creating an unbreakable contract. And the animals was almost a representation of, if you were to break this covenant, this is what would happen to you, right? Yeah. So here's what's so interesting about this is, when we talk about covenant, in a marital context. We in modern society, and especially in America and Western culture, have just watered this down so much, right?
Right.
In the sense that, oh, well, if I get married, it's just a piece of paper and it's just the government, making sure that if we ever break up, we each get our equal share. But that's not at all what the ritual of marriage is supposed to be about, right?
Yeah.
Because it is supposed to be a covenant. It is, I mean, we named the podcast The Covenant Chronicles, right?
Yeah.
For a reason. When you create a covenant, you are creating an unbreakable bond. And all these things, right, that people say that they take for granted, for better, for worse, for sicker, for poor, all this stuff that people basically just think are part of the process to the government saying, okay, well, if you split up, you're going to split things 50-50, are not at all what that is supposed to be about, right?
Mm-hmm.
These things are supposed to be a true declaration of the covenant you are making under God, right?
Yeah.
And this is why it's still supposed to be a pastor or an ordained person. I guess it doesn't have to be a pastor, but an ordained person. Now, even then, we have watered it down to where anybody with a brain can basically go get ordained online now, right? Like it is insane how easy it is, which is cool in some ways, but at the same token, I think because we have modernized and made it so easy to basically for people to get married, that it and created this culture where, well, if it doesn't work out, you can just get divorced and move on, right?
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, people may even, like, if they know our story, may even say, well, isn't that hypocritical because you guys have been divorced from previous partners? 100%.
Yeah.
Because we didn't understand this, right?
Right.
And I think that if we did, if more people understood what creating this covenant really meant, they would be a lot more careful about just jumping off the deep end into marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's funny, we actually talked about this, and I don't even know if we brought it up on the podcast. We may have, I don't recall, but when you get divorced, right, it is always it's not just, not ever is it, okay, well, we're just, we signed a piece of paper and we're done and we're going to move on, right?
Yeah.
Even the most cordial divorces, there is always something. And it might not be now, might be down the road, but there's always this just like tie and drama and either lack of boundaries, especially if you have kids, right?
Yeah.
Or just fight. And what's crazy is when you understand what a marriage covenant is, and that you're tying two people together into one. And a divorce is a separation of that, right? And you have to untie two people that you have spiritually bonded together as one.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a completely different view of things, right?
Yeah.
And then it puts it in a context of like, oh, wow, divorces are so messy and crazy and this and that and this, because we're trying to apply worldly things to this spiritual thing that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. It's, oh, and even, further than that is like, I'm talking about sexual, like, soul ties that are created too, and people don't even like, we just live in such a, time that everyone's like, just go have fun, live it up, do your thing, but not realizing like the reason you can't forget about that person is because you created You created something that you didn't even realize you were creating.
Yeah.
Yeah. It it is kind of crazy, to be honest. But yeah, for sure, especially when it comes to like divorces and stuff. And I think both of us have had to like work through that and realize that, because neither of us went into our previous marriage understanding what a covenant was, or
Mm-hmm.
what it meant, and how that like really looked. And so, getting out of it like that wasn't really a thought that we had either.
Well, and I think the problem is that we call things contracts now,
Yeah.
right? They're not covenants anymore
Yeah.
because you can get out of, right? There might be repercussions, but the contracts you can get out of, right? Covenants are not meant to be that way,
Yeah.
right? Even when you look at like the study that I went through and that I discussed with you about baptism and what that means, and the covenant that comes along with that, right? Because I think a lot of churches get it wrong in the sense that of what baptism really is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where it stemmed from. And it is, this declaration of like, okay, I'm declaring to give my life to Jesus. And that's 100% what that is, right? Not taking that away, not saying, hey, that's not true. But when you actually study baptism, going back to the Old Testament and the things that had happened, and you actually study what was actually going on in the world, right? Because people miss that. The fact that the Bible is a history book too.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that we thought was weird or way different culturally back then, because well, it was in the Bible, so it's just super weird because it's in the Bible. No, it was a cultural thing. It wasn't just in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
And you go back to baptism and you start talking about, well, there's this relationship with water and all these idols and these idol gods that were being worshipped were all thought to have power over water and to be the gateways to their world was under the water. And so there was this whole thing about, okay, well, if you go into the water and you get thrown in and then you drown, well, these idol gods deemed you guilty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And well, that's why you drowned. But if you came out and you lived, well, you were deemed innocent, right? And that's where even the baptism in the way that we follow it, right? In following Jesus, that comes from that same concept. And a lot of people miss that, right? So it is a declaration saying, hey, I'm giving my life to Jesus. But when you do this, part of you being washed of your sins and being now innocent that churches talk about, they always love to relate it back to, well, because Jesus died on the cross. No, it goes further back than that. This concept goes way further back than Jesus even walking this earth, right? Because it has to do with us being dipped in the water. And because we come out, we are deemed innocent,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot of these stories and the things that you see, right, of these other gods being worshipped, these idol gods, had to do with either something that God said, this is what you do, or in some cases, in my opinion, it was him almost mocking these idol gods and being like, no, I'm the one true God, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you believe that, like, you know, these gods rule over the waters? Cool, let me show you I do, right?
Yeah.
And you can see proof of this all throughout. Jesus walking on water, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are like, well, what is the significance of that? Well, if you understood that at the time period, everybody believed, it didn't matter what God you believed in or what idol you believed in or whether you believed in the true God, when you listen to these things or you saw these things, right? Okay, well, every single one of them was thought to have power over the waters. So when Jesus walked on water, for people in the area that saw that, that is a telltale sign, concrete proof that this is who he says he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's walking on water, and only, the story of
Only
Jonah.
God can do that.
Right, right. The story of Jonah, right? Same exact thing, which is why when you see this story and it starts putting these stories into context, right? Like story of Jonah, all these people on the ship are praying to their own gods. Jonah's down in the bottom of the ship taking a nap, right? He's like, what do I have to worry about? I believe in the true God that actually controls the waters. I don't care about the storm, it's going to be what it is. And then, the captain comes down, he starts talking to him. He says, hey, why are you not freaking out? Like, you need to pray to your God because we're going to die. And he says, hey, throw me in the water and my God will make the storm stop, or God, the God, will make the storm stop. So they do. They throw him in the water. Guess what stops, right? So for all these people that believed in other idols, why do you think they were actually realizing, oh crap, this is who it is, right? Because of that. So I bring up this stuff to get people to understand that like covenant is considered unbreakable, right? So when you are baptized and you make this declaration of your faith, and you come out of the water innocent, you are declaring your covenant to your king, to God, right?
Yeah.
And so when you are getting married, it is the same type of covenant, right? Because what happens when you get baptized? Galatians 2:20, it's no longer I who lives, but he who lives in me.
Yeah.
You die, right? The former self dies.
Yeah.
And you take on a new
identity. Yeah.
Marriage is no different, right?
Mm.
Unless you want to get a divorce, and then it's just a fun thing and a party to have with your friends and, and this, that, and the other. But that covenant, no, you two are dying and becoming one. You are spiritually dying and being bound together and creating a covenant, an unbreakable contract, right?
Yeah.
And so when you see these things and when you walk down the aisle and you say these vows, right? Because you got to think, even the way that you do these things, right? The traditional thing is you walk down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking between two separations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about how much you saw that in the Bible, right? Passing between two seas, or when the sea was split, rather, right? The covenant with Abraham. We've got animal halves either side that you're walking through.
Yeah.
Right? You pass down this narrow path, as Jesus says, the narrow path, and a part of you, or let me rephrase, the old you dies with this covenant.
Mm-hmm. And a new covenant is established.
A new covenant is established. If more people understood that, right? Because let's talk about just the health of marriages, right? What's funny is, you want evidence of this? We've seen people that are like, if they weren't so strong in their faith and they didn't believe in the covenant they created, they wouldn't be together. They have so much work to do, right? And not in a, I don't want this to come across as a judgmental thing, but a testament to the power of that covenant when you treat it as an actual covenant.
Right. Yeah. It does have a lot of power to it. And even seeing different couples who that is kind of the case. Like, it also is a testament to how using it as an unbreakable bond can really keep you together.
Mm-hmm.
But you should work on being the best version of you that you can be for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a place to be like, oh well, we have this covenant, so I can just do whatever and be whatever. Like, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
you know um but understanding what it actually means and how that looks and how it should look for you really would change. I feel like it would change so much for so many. I feel like it would decrease the amount of divorces if people really understood, and it wasn't just this willy-nilly, like, oh, it's just a contract, so it's not a big deal. Or even like getting married in the first place. um like, if people truly understood what they were doing and what that meant, it would be significantly different as well. But
I just had this aha moment.
what?
So we could reference this back to think about the old days, right? A marriage was like a covenant that was unbreakable, right? By legal, by societal, like couldn't, even in the Bible, like there's only a couple things that they tell you, like God tells you you can divorce somebody for, right?
Yeah.
And so what's so interesting about this is you commonly get the argument that says, well, yeah, but look at how many of those marriages were just contractual, or look how many of those marriages were so unhappy and people were stuck living out this life of, blah, 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 because of X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true, right? In arranged marriages, or, marriages where things have, I guess, changed over the years. But here's my argument to that, right? They also didn't understand, in many cases, what we understand now. So we are literally living, we're literally living in the best time to possibly build a covenant, a true covenant, right? Which is contrary to what most people will say because of the way society is.
Yeah.
However, back to the mindset thing, and it's how you look at it, right? If you really think about it, we have the knowledge and the literal manuscript of what it takes to build a covenant, what a marital covenant should look like, in the form of the Bible.
Yeah.
Combined with the knowledge and understanding we have of the dynamics that create a successful marriage. And what's funny is when you compare that to dynamics that it explains in the Bible, they are the same thing. They say the exact same thing. When you do not take things out of context and you actually take things at true value, right? And so my argument would be that we live in the best possible time to create these unbreakable covenants in a time where we don't have so many things to contend with, in the sense that, like, oh, you want to talk about your husband works in the oil field and he's gone for 2 weeks? Cool. Because back in biblical days, they might be gone for a year.
Yeah.
Right? Bro, when they were walking with the apostles, walking with Jesus, Peter had a whole family.
Yeah.
More than one of the apostles, I believe, had a family, but Peter's the one that comes to mind first. Like, they might be on an adventure for a couple of months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and by the way, they didn't have cell phones. You couldn't just text your wife and be like, hey, still on the road.
Yeah.
Gonna be another couple weeks. I love you.
Yeah.
Or being able to communicate every single day, multiple times a day,
Mm-hmm.
still find ways to connect, you know? And not to say it isn't hard, say for example, in like a military situation, right? Because it is, and that can be a huge strain, right?
Yeah.
Huge strain. And I don't want to take anything away from that where, you might have a husband that's deployed in an area that he can't really have communication and they can only write letters, which can definitely be challenging. But your grandparents did it.
Mm-hmm.
And how many military dudes nowadays got freaking WhatsApp and Wi-Fi when they're deployed, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not, as there are situations, don't get me wrong, and if you fall into one of those weird situations, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
But like, we are extremely privileged nowadays. So in my opinion, we live in the best time to create a covenant when you have the ability to be so connected to your partner. And yes, there are the distractions, right? And you talk about, well, there's so many distractions nowadays that our grandparents didn't have, or there's so many this that we didn't used to have. Yeah. But what's the flip side? Because there's also a ton of benefits in the sense that most couples see each other on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, and if you use it to your advantage instead of taking advantage of it, because like
Right.
you could, like, my TikTok feed is mostly God and like relationship or like self-help stuff
Mm-hmm.
feed. Like that's pretty much it. Like all I get on TikTok because I've like it knows that's the stuff that I want to see and I'm not going to look at anything else. So like you could be using that stuff to your advantage to help you learn how to have a better relationship or learn how to be closer to God or whatever the case may be. You have the option to actually create that
Mm-hmm.
inside of technology, or you can create it to be a distraction
Mm-hmm.
and an issue that's going to happen inside your relationship.
Yep.
You know,
That
like,
same phone that has the social media apps also has the Bible app.
right.
You can go doom scroll social media or you could read the Bible.
Yeah.
Right. Same phone that you're using to message someone else for validation could be used to build your spouse up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Same piece of tech. It's not the technology, it's the choices.
Yeah.
And it's harder nowadays. That's such, like, in many ways I will agree that there are new challenges that we haven't had to deal with in the past as a society. We also have new benefits that we haven't had. And so I don't want to take away from the possible addiction aspect of searching for dopamine that comes along with technology. But they found other ways, right?
Yeah.
How many kids like vaping is a big thing, right? I with these kids nowadays. But even then, like in retrospect, how many kids do you know that vape, right? Compared to like our parents' generation that grew up smoking cigarettes at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. Right?
Yeah.
Like it was like our entire parents' generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like and like everybody did it. So the addictions and the unhealthy behaviors haven't changed.
Yeah.
Just the manner in which they exhibit are different.
Yeah.
And you can argue that, well, one is worse than the other. You know, sure, I guess.
I mean,
There's
Satan's going to use what he has at his disposal,
right,
right?
right,
So just because there's a new way to keep you distracted, well, like, of course he's going to use it. Like, why wouldn't he?
right. And so that's the point, is that the power is within you. It is in your own mind. And if you are creating a covenant and you choose to create a covenant, stop getting married, stop getting, a piece of paper that the government tells you have to have, and start building covenants and stop making excuses as to why it's hard.
Yeah.
Because if you choose that, that is your choice. You've created an unbreakable bond, and now it is your obligation to get up every day and honor that bond.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say when it's easy. No vow ever, no covenant ever, whether you're talking about biblical, marital, any of it is, well, when it's easy, when it feels good, when
Yeah.
I'm in a good mood, right?
Yeah.
It is no, even when it is hard,
Mm-hmm.
even when life is harder than you want it to be, even when you feel like life might be kicking your butt, which we can go into a whole nother conversation about that being a majority of it being your mindset.
Yeah.
But regardless, like, stop making excuses.
Mm-hmm.
And when you create a covenant, it doesn't matter all this extra crap that people try to place value on, right? The ring is a symbol of what you chose to do and the covenant you chose to build. But that covenant doesn't change whether that ring is on your finger or not.
Yeah.
Right? You want to go do something that you shouldn't be doing and take the ring off. The ring doesn't make a difference, right? You act like I'm only married when I have the ring on, right? Like, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
No, you've built an unbreakable bond. You become one, and there's so much to it now that I wish I understood sooner in life. The importance of, changing the name, creating, a true joint life together, bank accounts, housing, bills, lifestyle, the way you do things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to have situations where somebody is better at something and you guys talk about that and, hey, this is what we're going to do. And occasionally you still talk about them. Cool, that's fine, because you've figured out a dynamic in your relationship that works really well for you.
Yeah.
I will caution you, that doesn't mean that somebody just does something because you let them and you don't want anything to do with it and this, that, and the other, right? Yeah. But when you are creating this, everything is one now, right? And like for us, like, it doesn't matter where the income stream comes from. It's, hey, our account, our money, this, that, and the other, right? Our bills, it doesn't matter where the bill came from. It's our bills, right?
Yeah.
Our kids, right? These are the things that you have to understand, that when you create this covenant, it is one spiritual being now.
Yeah.
And the old version of you is dead.
Yeah. When you were talking about that, it just reminded me of the post that I saw, I sent you this morning, because we tend to give ourselves a hard time about, like, well, if I had known this sooner,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah. But it was like, if I knew Jesus the way I do now, I wouldn't have made the mistakes I made then. But if I didn't make the mistakes I made then, I'm not sure I would know Jesus the way I do now.
Oh, 100%.
And so
100%.
I think people need to keep that in mind, because we do tend to be really hard on ourselves. Like, well, if I had known, I wouldn't have blah, blah, blah. But like, you and I wouldn't be where we are today if we hadn't made the mistakes that we made before and understand what we understand now, which is why we do this podcast, to help others understand and to be able to come to, a better understanding of themselves and their relationships. But like, if we hadn't made the mistakes that we made, we wouldn't be where we are today and understand the things that we understand and that we hope, make a difference to other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's exactly it, and I think with this discussion, that is the hope, though, is to encourage those that are either already married or looking to get married, that when you do this, this is a covenant, right? And maybe you messed it up before. Maybe it was a previous marriage. Maybe it was the marriage you're in now that, you're trying to fix and you realize that you got into for the wrong reasons. Any of that can be changed, right? Any of that can be fixed. It can be built upon with the understanding of when you get married, it is a covenant, right?
Yeah.
And if you end up in a situation where God has a different plan for you and it is not with your current partner for whatever reason, right? Then you need to understand that even if you did things for the wrong reason, there is still a covenant bond there, whether you treated that way or not, that is going to create all these ripple effects when you break it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you decide to do it again, there is no half-hearted going into this. It is the next time I'm building a covenant with a person that we're putting God at the center and creating an unbreakable covenant, right?
Yeah.
You can also, if you went into things for the wrong reason, build on your current covenant and understand that it is just like when we get baptized and we go and screw up.
Yeah.
That doesn't get rid of the covenant that was made.
Mm-hmm.
Right? God still wants relationship with us. And your marriage is the same way. He still wants you to put him at the center. He still wants to be at the center and wants you to start building in a different way.
Yeah.
So stop making excuses and do it.
Mm-hmm. You have the ability to change it if you want to, and if it's important to you. Which are the big keys there.
On that note, this week, your homework is to research covenant and define what it looks like and what it means to you. And also spend some time in your Bible reading about covenants
mm-hmm.
to help you come to that understanding.
Yeah.
And then you're going to write down what a covenant looks like. And then you're going to relate that to your current or your future marriage. And if you are currently married or with somebody that you are looking to get married to, you're going to go have a conversation with them about this and ask them to do the same thing, mm-hmm. for you guys to come together and figure out what all of this means to you.
Yep.
As a couple. So when you do this, whether you're moving forward in a current marriage or you're looking to get married, you are doing it from a God-centered place with a true understanding of what that covenant and one spirituality means.
Yep. That's a good one.
All right, then.
Well, until next time, we shall see you then.
Okay, bye.
Bye.